One of the most talked about cases in the nation is the judicial battle involving Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. The nation has taken notice of this judicial battle, which is full of startling accusations and close public scrutiny. The allegations themselves are only one aspect of the case. Other aspects include the media hysteria, political overtones, and the fairness issues that have surfaced in public conversation. Now that Mangoni is facing charges that could have unavoidable repercussions, his life is in jeopardy. The stakes could hardly be higher, from a murder charge to the imminent threat of the death penalty. Mangoni was charged with killing Brian Thompson in the streets of New York, which sparked intense public and media interest and the start of this judicial battle. The intricacy of the case has sparked discussions about justice, equity, and the influence of the media on public opinion among legal professionals, public leaders, and regular citizens. Mangoni pleaded not guilty to 11 criminal accusations in court, including first-degree murder, and his arraignment has drawn attention from the public and legal community alike. Not only are Mangoni's serious accusations at the center of this case, but so is the public and judicial perception of him. Aware of the public's opinion, his defense team made a concerted effort to change the way people perceived Mangoni. Mangoni showed up in court wearing a burgundy sweater, khaki pants, and a clean white button-down shirt rather than the typical orange prison garb. His legal team made this deliberate choice in an effort to humanize Mangoni and show him as a calm, approachable person rather than a seasoned criminal. Courtroom dress can be a potent nonverbal communication tool that affects how jurors, judges, and the general public view defendants. The severity of the allegations against a defendant may be lessened if he is well groomed, since he may be perceived as more approachable or perhaps innocent. Mangoni's appearance in this instance was a component of a broader plan to change public opinion and portray him as a person worthy of a fair trial. It was a move that demonstrated how every aspect of high-profile cases is closely examined, since every decision from attire to mannerisms influences the story. Mangoni's accusations are quite enormous. He is charged with first-degree murder, which is only used for the most serious offenses, and the consequences could be just as dire. Mangoni faces federal accusations that carry the death penalty if found guilty. The gravity of these charges was reflected in the arraignment atmosphere in the courtroom. Mangoni's defense team put a lot of effort into refuting the prosecution's story, but the prosecutors were tough and systematic in their presentation of the evidence. Another noteworthy element of the arraignment was the courtroom appearance of Mangoni's supporters, who highlighted the intensely personal character of the case. To express their conviction that Mangoni is innocent, or at the very least, that he deserves a fair trial, these supporters gathered both inside and outside the courthouse. It is the defense's responsibility to contest not only the case's facts, but also the larger context in which it is taking place. Mark Ilo and Karen Friedman Agnifilo, two of Mangoni's lawyers, have said that the case is being politicized and presented in a way that compromises Mangoni's right to a fair trial. In particular, Agnifilo has been outspoken about the spectacle she believes surrounds Mangoni's extradition to New York. The defense viewed this widely reported event, which included statements from the mayor and a significant police presence, as a conscious attempt to generate a media frenzy that may influence public opinion and possibly prejudice jurors. Mangoni has been utilized as a political pawn in a larger spectacle, according to Agillo. She underlined that Mangoni had been detained for more than a week prior to the well-publicized extradition and had cooperated with law police. The defense has maintained that the presumption of innocence that is designed to govern the legal system could be undermined by such a spectacle, which is intended to garner public attention and could prejudge Mangoni's guilt. Despite the legal struggle going on around him, Mangoni maintained a cool, collected attitude within the courtroom. His defense team was thorough in challenging the prosecution's strategy and drawing attention to what they believed to be a political motive for the case. The decision to portray Mangoni as a calm and collected person was a component of a larger plan to disassociate him from the stereotype of a violent criminal and instead portray him as someone who should be given a fair trial. His formal, well-groomed clothes serve to further solidify this portrayal of relatability and normalcy. Mangione faces some of the most serious charges in the legal system, especially first-degree murder. He might receive a life sentence or even the death penalty if found guilty. The charges, which include murder and other allegations that have complicated the case, are equally serious at the state level. The prosecution's strategy has been to make a compelling case, highlighting the seriousness of the accusations and the supporting documentation. Their plan is to show how severe the allegations are while also refuting the defense's claims of injustice and political intentions. The defense has not only concentrated on defending Mangione from the accusations, but also on contesting the trial's backdrop. They contend that the case's public spectacle has produced an atmosphere that makes it potentially impossible to locate unbiased jurors. A heated environment has been generated by the extensive media coverage, the public remarks made by city authorities, and the planned extradition of Mangione, which may have an impact on the jury and the public's opinion of the case. The part played by Mangone's followers is among the more convincing elements of this case. The case has become more complicated as a result of his supporters' presence both inside and outside the courtroom. Through rallies and open demonstrations, these supporters have made their voices heard because they think Mangione is innocent, or at the least, that he has the right to a fair trial. On the other end of the spectrum, some people emphasize the seriousness of the accusations against Mangione and call for justice for Brian Thompson. The case has become a national spectacle that has garnered a lot of media attention due to this division, which has only raised the emotional stakes. The legal team for Mangione has been transparent about their approach. They are contesting the story being told about the case in addition to defending him against the accusations. Agnifilo has noted that the prosecution's strategy, which includes both state and federal charges, may present jurors with too many contradictory accounts. Additionally, she has questioned the coordination between federal and state prosecutors, claiming that it makes the legal system more convoluted than it needs to be. Focusing on these procedural concerns and pointing out what they perceive to be contradictions in the prosecution's case has been the defense's approach. Fairness is still a major concern as the case develops. The degree of public engagement, including remarks made by city officials and the media circus surrounding the extradition, has generated bias that could taint the trial, according to Mangone's lawyers. In particular, Agnifilo has emphasized the notion that Mangione is not being handled as a unique defendant with a right to a fair trial, but rather is being utilized as a symbol to further larger political goals. The growing worry over the politicization of high-profile cases and the influence of public opinion and the media on the legal system is reflected in this argument. Mangone's background adds even more complication to this issue. Mangione, a recent Ivy League graduate, has surprised the country with his activities, which have sparked debate about the legal system and healthcare in general, as well as his personal life. Supporters of Mangione have framed the case as a way to look at the healthcare system, claiming that the trial brings to light more significant structural problems in the sector. This has made the case even more complicated, turning it into a discussion on societal issues as well as a legal dispute. Both parties use their trial time to convey their larger points of contention, turning the courtroom itself into a platform for public messaging. While the defense has attempted to refute the public narrative and contend that Mangione is receiving unfair treatment, the prosecution has concentrated on the gravity of the charges and the urgency of bringing about prompt justice. Both parties are getting ready for a drawn-out and intense court battle as the case develops, one that is probably going to keep the country's attention. The task facing Mangone's defense team, which is headed by seasoned lawyers Karen Agnifilo and Mark Ilo, is challenging. In addition to arguing against the allegations, they must also contest the larger story that has been developed around the case. They have already hinted that they would raise the defense of insanity, which might change the emphasis from whether Mangione actually committed the crime to a state of mind at the time of it. Claims of significant mental disease or impairment would need to be supported by expert testimony from psychologists or psychiatrists, which would complicate an already difficult case. Outside the courthouse, protests and discussions are taking place as the public continues to offer its opinions on the issue. Discussions concerning the court system's fairness, the effect of media attention, and the wider ramifications for society have been spurred by this national spectacle. Justice and fairness are still major concerns as Mangone's legal team gets ready for what is expected to be a difficult trial. The outcome of this well known case will be decided in large part during the next 2 weeks. The legal teams on both sides are getting ready for what is anticipated to be a drawn out and difficult trial, as the grand jury shortly decides whether to formally indict Mangone. In addition to deciding Mangone's future, the verdict in this case will establish a standard for handling instances of this nature in the public view. As this intense legal dispute continues to play out, the stakes are enormous and everyone is watching the courtroom.